But it's clear to me that President Trump wants out of this misbegotten adventure with Iran.
I want to mention that the war devastated Iran and affected greatly the Arab Gulf countries.
So this is where I think the broad majority of the world is saying enough.
The crazy thing about the position that Israel has taken, which continues to destabilize the whole region, is that it's so obviously against Israel's own interest.
This is the 14th World Peace Forum, where global leaders and political figures gather to discuss international security issues. Just the day before, the US and Iran had held indirect talks in Doha, mediated by Pakistan and Qatar. While Washington called the talks productive, Tehran accused the US of violating the Memorandum of Understanding signed on June 18. There's barely any real progress to speak of, but coincidentally, on the 250th anniversary of American independence, Iran held a funeral ceremony for Khamenei. Before the next rounds of negotiation, we are here to ask the question, where is this fragile truce heading? Ever since the US and Iran reached that ceasefire back in April, the so-called calm never really came. Instead, there's been a mix of talks and fights, with clashes still flaring up in Iran itself, Lebanon, Syria, and the Red Sea, and both sides had taken heavy losses.
The United States wanted to impose its wills on Iranians through two wars, and they failed to impose their wills on Iranians by resorting to war. And they came to the conclusion that maybe they should try other way of a new round of negotiations, because we already had two rounds of negotiations. So this time, through the mediation of Pakistan, the two parties have been able to agree on some principles, a 14-point MOU, which is a very important MOU.
Under the MOU, key agendas including US sanction relief, Iranian nuclear restriction, and Iran halting uranium enrichment all need to be addressed within the 60-day windows. But 60 days, for many, is nowhere near enough to resolve the fundamental differences.
Then if you look at the architecture of the MOU, it became very obvious to me reading it in the first 5 minutes that it was an incremental MOU. It wasn't like you trying to solve all problems.
So we have to expect that we will wait, maybe exceed the 60 days of negotiation. And I am sure that the Iranians, they will always, play with time. They want to, to reach the point where we have this midterm election in the United States. And they consider this might, give a sort of weakness to Trump.
My sense of where the American public is, which is very much opposed to this adventure, and very much we've had it, that the wars with Iraq, the involvement in the Middle East, and that the best that can be hoped for is we'll go back to the situation before the start of U.S. and Israeli bombing.
In addition, while the US has agreed to unfreeze the $12 billion of Iranian funds, the unsolved issue lies in a fundamental disagreement over how the money can be used. The US insists on placing it in a designated escrow account and restricting purchases to American agricultural products, while Iran demands full autonomy over the fund.
But the main aim of Iran is to obtain the money because they have a very severe economic crisis now inside Iran. Well, I guess the Iranians, they need money. So they are using the Strait of Hormuz as a sort of pressure on USA and the whole world. They are, adopting a strategy with the called, punish for everybody.
But the biggest wildcard in this chess game seems to be Israel. With the growing US-Israel divide, it keeps using military action to disrupt the talks and hit the brakes on negotiation.
We know that this is an initial agreement.
Okay.
We know that the ceasefire is still fragile as events in recent weeks have shown.
Israel's actions in Gaza, in Lebanon, disrupting the MOU, U.S.-Iran, clearly have undermined the Israel-U.S. relationship.
I guess this will be a sort of conflict between Trump and Netanyahu. Netanyahu wants, to ignite the whole issue again, and Trump, of course, wants to be, let us say, the man of peace, as he is always claiming.
Netanyahu is a bully in the region, like the way he bullies Palestinians or Lebanese. Trump has shown that he can bully Netanyahu. He's the only man who can do it, and he will do more, I think. I think the time has come for regime change in Israel. Otherwise, Israel is the biggest impediment, biggest roadblock to peace in the region.
But at the end of the day, overwhelmingly, you have to say the main obstacle to peace, resolving this finally, just as it's been the main obstacle to peace generally in the Middle East for decades now, is, I have to say, Israel, and particularly, of course, its Prime Minister Netanyahu. It really is quite extraordinary the extent to which the absolute unwillingness of Israel, particularly since the death of Yitzhak Rabin in 1995.
I look at this moment as a moment of great opportunity, because I think there comes a time when things have to go worse before they come better.
We cannot continue the situation as it is. This war will end, but the soil will be fertile for another confrontations. It is imperative on the regional parties to come together, to commit to certain principles that would allow them to establish a regional order. The current world order was built after 2 world wars, and I hope that we will not need a 3rd world war to change that world order. We need to improve it. We need to make it more fair.
And hopefully, if the Americans are really looking for a kind of peace and stability in the region, the Iranian side has shown its determination for this kind of stability, and there would be some results.